I loved exploring Hyrule in Breath of the Wild. I loved rediscovering Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. I loved seeing how Hyrule had grown and changed. It's nice to revisit Hyrule every now and then. It's familiar. It's comfortable. You know what to expect. But the Zelda series doesn't have to be tied down to the familiar or the comfortable. The Zelda series can go wherever it wants to go, take us to any location it wants to invent. And so, for that reason, I think it's time to leave Hyrule. Oh, wait, one sec, my dad is calling. He's the President of the United States. Very important guy. Hey Dad, what's up? Oh, they're making a new Zelda game? He's also the President of Nintendo. Oh, Echoes of Wisdom, you say? Ooh, that sounds fun. And it takes place in Hyrule. Again. Awesome. Thanks, Dad. So why do we keep going back to Hyrule? Obviously, the 2D game isn't going to have the same Hyrule as Breath of the Wild. No, it's actually ripping off A Link Between Worlds, which itself was a ripoff of A Link to the Past. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's going to be a bad game. I'll probably do a video on it when it comes out, but are we really going to keep going back to Hyrule? I know not every Zelda game takes place in Hyrule, but it sure does feel like a lot of them. There are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, the series loves callbacks to previous games, and it lives for motifs that can carry on from one game to the next. Hyrule Castle is iconic in the same way the Gorons are iconic, or the Master Sword is iconic. None of these elements are necessary for any Zelda game, but the Zelda team obviously really likes them. But it goes deeper than just wanting to bring back the Deku Tree. Each Zelda game takes years to make. You might only get one new game on any given console. While they try to make each game feel unique, they also seem to want every entry to feel quintessential. Each new game is going to be someone's first Zelda game. So it almost seems like they don't want to change things up too much. This is especially true when they come out with a new groundbreaking title like Breath of the Wild. This game is like a soft reboot of the series, and since they were already shaking up the gameplay formula so much, it makes sense that they'd want to lean back on the more recognizable elements. I guess we could speculate about Echoes of Wisdom, but I want to trust that the Zelda team knows what they're cooking. So let's talk about after Echoes of Wisdom. In the next big 3D title, are we going to go to Hyrule again? You might notice that when I say Hyrule, I'm not just talking about one specific version of the place. I'm talking about Hyrule in broad strokes. We're probably not visiting this Hyrule again, though I guess we never know, this could be a threequel. I'm talking about any place called Hyrule, complete with Hyrule Castle, Zora, Gorons, Gerudo, and the Rito if we're lucky, Death Mountain, the Lost Woods, the Master Sword. I don't hate these elements. Actually, it can be fun to see them coming back in new iterations. But we don't need any of that. When I play the next Zelda game, I want to enjoy exploring a whole new world. I don't want to be thinking, where are those lost woods? Or, how are they going to screw up the water temple this time? I want to be dazzled by how strange and unfamiliar the world is. For as good as Breath of the Wild was, there was nothing surprising about the Gorons or the Zora or the Gerudo. We'd seen them before, and they weren't exactly charting new territory. If the next game wants to focus on exploration, which seems to be like the main thing for Zelda, we need to go someplace completely new. This isn't just random wishful thinking either. They've done this before. Need I remind you of fan-favorite video game Majora's Mask? The big obvious thing about this game is the moon. It's got a face and it's slowly falling on Termina. The atmosphere is completely different from every other game in the series, and that leads to some genuinely unsettling moments throughout the game. And yeah, this game reuses the races from Ocarina of Time, but they're completely recontextualized. The Gorons are now in the ice area. The Gerudo are pirates. The Zora are well, they are just Zora again, but this time they have guitars. This game stands out by putting Zelda characters in a fresh, new context. But Majora's Mask is not the only game to do this. Let's talk about fan-favorite video game, Wind Waker. This game does a fantastic job of mixing things up. There are like 3 Gorons in this game, no living Zora. Instead, the Great Sea introduces the Koroks and the Rito. Before Breath of the Wild turned them into series mainstays, The Koroks and the Rito were Wind Waker exclusives. If we want to see more new races introduced into the Zelda world, the best way to do that is to simply leave Hyrule. I'll even give Skyward Sword a little bit of leeway. I was planning on dunking on it, and then I remembered I have not played it in 10 years, so that didn't really seem fair. Instead, here are the great things I remember. Skyloft? That was awesome. Loftwings? Those guys were awesome. The digging mole guys? Yeah, those guys were awesome too. And the little robot dudes in the time-shifting desert? Incredible. But also, looking back, it fell into the trap of having a few basic, kinda boring locations. You have your forest areas, and then your lava mountain areas, and then your desert areas. Definitely not the Hyrule we're used to, but also like a proto-Hyrule. Hyrule before it became Hyrule. So what exactly do I want to see moving forward? Give me some interesting new NPC races, have them fill their own role in the story, and direct us towards an interesting new dungeon concept. Give me a world with history and adventure without the standard Ganon has kidnapped Zelda inside her own castle story beat. I think the one thing I'm worried about is having a standardized version of Hyrule, a generic location where nothing is surprising. Did you notice how Breath of the Wild didn't introduce any new NPC races? Every race was brought in from a previous game. It feels like it's supposed to be the gold standard version of Hyrule. Tears of the Kingdom did give us like 2 Zonai, so I guess it's not all lost. But I have hope. Given the fact that the Zelda team has spent 10 years working on one version of Hyrule, I'd like to think they're getting kind of tired of it, and they're ready to tackle an entirely new location. Or even if they still call it Hyrule, they could take it in a wholly new direction. Twilight Princess did have the basic Zorons and Goras, but it also had the Yetis in that frozen mansion. And it had the little Rito eggs in the Sky City, and it had the weird, glitchy Twilight monsters that Wolf Link had to fight. It was still Hyrule, but it was also something new. Honestly, they can do whatever they want with the next game. Make Link an old man, or have it take place on the moon, or just let him collaborate with Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't really care what direction they take, just please, don't make it boring.